people no longer bound by their non-disclosure agreements, what can you now disclose? My best friend worked at a roadside attraction near Chattanooga, Tennessee, called Ruby Falls. There's something else called Ruby Falls elsewhere in the country. It's supposedly a waterfall inside a cave. Of course, the trail to the cave is redone with all sorts of rock brought in from around the world. I think they've owned up to that part now. But the waterfall itself is barely a trickle naturally, and then only in the wetter season. They've run a pipe up there to supplement the falls, hidden by cracks and crevices and cemented over, and powered by a pump off to the side, which you can't hear when the water is splashing down from 100 feet overhead. It's 99% from the city of Chattanooga, or maybe Lookout Mountain, municipal water supply. Of course, with such a wet area, old electrical wires going back to the Great Depression, and 300 feet underground, it sputters, or shorts out and stops every now and then. The first rule in the falls room is make everybody leave immediately if the power goes out, not for safety, but because the fable agreed upon will be shown as fake. The LED effects when you first walk into the cavern are a bit much. I live just up the road, and it is the least recommended tourist attraction when I have guests. Go to the aquarium. The book you're reading might only be a bestseller because the author had enough money to buy thousands and thousands of copies, have them shipped to a warehouse for storage, and eventually destroyed. Always wondered how crafty books were on the nitty Beaslan who was buying them, mind blown. Plan 1. Get rich. 2. Open bookstores. 3. Write world's craftiest book. 4. Have bookstores buy crafty book. 5. Expose nitty Beasl for the fraud that it is. 6. Create new and improved, not crafty, bestseller list. 7. Write book about taking down nitty Beasl. 8. Refuse to add my book to my new BSL. 9. Garner integrity and respect. 10. Profit. I worked at a small bakery in New York City when I was younger. Every morning the bakery would take their day-old cupcakes and deliver them to a tour company that did Sex and the City tours. The tour company would pass our cupcakes off as cupcakes from Magnolia, and significantly much more popular bakery. I went on that tour with my ex-wife and ate one of those cupcakes. Edit: the cupcake was pretty disappointing. Definitely tasted stale. After the cupcake, the tour took us to some swanky little underground bar where they fed us cosmopolitan martinis and then it ended at a dildo store. They set us up for a good time. Is that why she's an ex-wife? When I was fired from Auntie Anne's in 2010, I signed a 10-year non-compete NDA contract, promising not to detail the baking secrets or work for another pretzel establishment. Well, that ended this year, so now I can run out and start a pretzel store because the secret I was keeping was making pretzels literally requires 2 products, one of them being water and the other a large bag of pretzel meal/dust/powder. Quite literally anyone with $2,500 can start a pretzel stand and make perfectly fine pretzels. It's not difficult whatsoever. Edit: I signed the letter when I was hired, but I got a copy with my termination letter. Well, you forgot to say what the secret browning agent is that all the pretzels get dipped into before they go on the sheet and into the oven. It's baking soda and water. Mystery solved. Also lemonade 2, 4, 8, refrigerate. Baking soda also works in caramelizing onions in a hurry. Just a little, it increases the Maillard reaction substantially. You know NDAs are only good if you have the money to sue? Worked with a company that didn't pay me, so I told them their NDA didn't apply. They threatened to sue. My response: you can't even afford to pay me, you sure as hell can't afford to sue. They also don't extend to keeping you from reporting illegal activity to the justice system. Some places may try to make people believe that and may even try to imply it in the NDA, but it has no legal standing. Doesn't illegal content in legal contracts immediately void the entire contract? I used to work for a large gas station chain. I worked at its warehouse where it creates a lot of the donuts. The room was really hot, so we were always sweating. There's some machines where the donuts get glazed in chocolate. They're these small machines, they look almost like a barbecue grill. They always wanted us to be super fast glazing the donuts. Working in a hot room and working at super fast speeds, it was natural for a lot of people's sweat to just drip in the chocolate underneath us. Never eat the chocolate donuts from a gas station. Honestly, if the worst thing in those donuts is human sweat, I'm impressed. Do you want to know how they make the holes in the donuts? I was a contractor for NASA. I still fully support the agency, but I was extremely bugged when I learned that each separate NASA center, for example, JPL, Kennedy, Ames, Goddard, hides many of its inventions and breakthroughs from the other centers so that when HQ is ready to assign a big mission, and a lot of dollars, to one center, they have a better chance to compete over the others. Look what we invented. Ames can't do this over there. Give us the next moon orbiter. The downside is that there is a ton of reinvention and duplicated efforts going on. Sometimes years of work go down the drain when another center does the same thing faster. My perspective was, you all work for NASA. Share knowledge, collaborate. I was frequently ordered to tone down anything revealing when speaking to other centers. Not just true for NASA. True for many government agencies. The issue is that money is zero-sum, and if one program is getting money, it is getting cut from another program. So everyone is fighting to get their share and avoid having to make staffing cuts. Fixing this would probably require a fundamental change in the executive branch as well as the appropriations process. We would have to move from a leadership system in which you have new political appointees coming in every few years who aren't familiar with the programs to permanent leadership who are focused on making all the different sub-agency departments work synergistically. Appropriations would have to change to have predictable funding levels for each program for several years. I once had to sign an NDA to get a price on a printer for my sign shop. This was a printer that was only sold by one distributor, by the way, so there wasn't even any direct competition on this particular model. I think the gimmick was that if they make a really big deal out of giving you this super secret pricing that you'd be lulled into thinking it was really something special. Edit. Interesting comment by user Beard Stash Man below, who probably has the right idea as to what was going on with this practice. Reddit link. They weren't worried about you going to a different supplier, they wanted to be able to offer different prices to different customers. This is a concept called price discrimination and is a very common practice. I dug up some ancient bones, gold, and Mycenaean tombs. I couldn't discuss the finds until the institution who ran the archaeological dig could publish the data. You can read about it. Edit to add, I'm a classic student, not the one running the whole dig, but my role in it was very much legal and official. Lol. We knew to dig there because there was another tomb next to it, and it's located near a big Mycenaean Bronze Age palace. I only dug there for one summer, but it was a blast. If you're interested in archaeology, you should see if there are any local groups that you can volunteer with. Web link. My graphic designer best friend won my town's Design the Centennial logo contest, despite having never set foot in the town. I worked for the radio station, and just did an interview with one of the organizers, where he lamented that there weren't very many entries. So I called my friend and said, "Want in on this?" He said, "Sure." As he lived on the other side of the country at the time, I spent the next day texting him photos of the town for inspiration. Anyway, when he won and they found out he was a professional graphic designer who lived on the other side of the country, they made him and me sign NDAs because the town was afraid people would think they brought in a ringer. Edit. Wow, this kind of blew up, so let me answer some of the more common questions being brought up. 1. What's a ringer? A ringer is professional who's brought into a contest in order to guarantee favored results. 2. Why did I have to sign the NDA? Well, they unveiled the logo at a great big ceremony where they presented the prize money. I think it was a couple $100, and since my friend lived on the other side of the country, he asked if I could accept on his behalf. I wound up not going, because we were broadcasting from another event that day, so the mayor accepted on his behalf. 3. Where is this? Canada. A small town in Alberta. That's all I'm comfortable sharing. How did they make you? They threatened to withhold the prize and you threatened to tell the public, which would be way worse PR-wise than what they alone wanted the NDA for. Presumably if they didn't sign the NDA, they wouldn't have picked the design. Scandal of the century. I had to sign an NDA to work at this tech company, And I'm still waiting to accidentally overhear something cool so I can feel special for knowing something important but being legally barred from disclosing it. Pro tip: 99% of the other people there are in the same boat. Start talking loudly on the phone, or in a stage whisper with a colleague after overtly double-checking, "Hey, you signed the NDA, right?" And you can at least make everyone else feel special. Well, the data screw-up was just another packaged library issue. They've reverted it now, but you can't roll back whatever's in the wind already. So did the NSA say anything about the strange numbers you were seeing? What do you mean, plead the fifth? Sure, it runs faster now, but aren't you a little worried about the radiation? The last one is great. Having signed NDAs and held security clearances, I can say that the information that was actually protected for me ended up being very boring for normal people, but very important to competitors who are hoping for that slight edge. Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA will have microtransactions. The NDA was signed in 2016. I was getting more and more worried as the release date kept getting closer, and then it happened. The backlash was so strong that EA went down in the history books as most downvoted comment in Reddit's history. Any more details you can dish out about this? I remember when this all came to a head. Like back then, the build of the game I saw wasn't even a game. Everything was in PDF and in the planning stage of development. So I can confirm that the star cards and the whole BS progression system was planned for day one. Also, Finn and Phasma were fully developed and playable as early as June 2017. Microtransactions and DLC are such the norm now that I feel companies aren't even trying to hide behind the idea that the DLC is developed after the game's initial release. I remember a time when the fact Finn and Phasma were done and playable before release would have been a big scandal in itself. I think I'm finally ready to let the world know my secret. If you've ever used VeriSite, the loading spinners you see when the report loads aren't waiting for anything. People kept complaining that reports were coming back too fast, so it must not be working right. It doesn't take long to complete a few hundred Google searches simultaneously, so the loading spinner just makes you wait a few seconds longer so it feels like more is happening. So glad to finally get that off my chest. Bonus fact: edit. I also added applying phlebotinum, reticulating splines, and looking for cat memes as random loading messages, but they wouldn't let me do harassing at Ted Cruz on Twitter. This is a good one. Now we just need an elevator engineer to admit that the close door button doesn't actually do anything. To be blackballed by big elevator? You'll never see that. This reminded me of adding an egg to instant _ pancakes, cakes, brownies, etc. Not actually necessary. When Betty Crocker's instant baked goods brand first went on the market, her sales were poor. The team surveyed people and they were suspicious of baking from a powder. Adding the egg makes people feel that they're actually contributing to a baking process. Edit. User which weighs up thinks I'm missing a detail, and they seem to be right. The originally introduced cake mix did not need egg, or water for that matter. It was then revised to now require water and egg, or you can still make it without and it will be edible, but not for the best final product. Actually kind of better fits Ops example. A step was added to make a process less convenient but somehow reassure the user. Here's a Psychology Today article. Web link. Reddit link. This isn't specific to the software you used. As a software developer, I have had to do this a few different times. Why? You need a loading indicator for 1% of the time that users do have to wait. Briefly showing and hiding that indicator is jarring to the end user and generates support tickets, so the first thing we are asked to do is add a delay. My NDA is classified military information. Of course, it's almost 25 years now, so I can tell you about the Battle of Norfolk. We're going to shoot the other guys. I recall those guys got shot. This checks out. As a lawyer, I've viewed a lot of these in tort settlements. The most common use of the NDA is to keep the award amount quiet so everyone won't sue the company, hoping to get that sweet settlement money. Edit. Several people have PM'd me about their NDAs, and if they can talk about this or that. I am not your lawyer. I don't give legal advice to non-clients. You shouldn't take legal advice from strangers on Reddit. But it's called a settlement because you settled the matter. Let it go. You got the hush money, now do the hush. I like to add your friends and family will all start asking you for money. People will bring up old debts you owe them that you won't remember if they're real or not. Just keep it to yourself or you're going to hate it. This seems to work better than the threat of legal consequences for breaking an NDA. My dad brings up old debt any chance he gets. All through high school up to now, your sister owes me money for my car they sold, ask her. Your brother owes me money from when I paid for his college, ask him. Is he trying to pass his debts off to others who owe him money? I had a friend who did that in high school. I'd lend him $20, he'd tell me to go get it from someone else who owes him money. That's not how it works, bro. What the F, laughing out loud, buddy, you owe me, not your friend that owes you. In the IT world, it is often that the piece of internal software or system that gives your company an edge is not quite as huge a deal as it seems. Often it is not much more than a couple of technologies mashed together to automate things in a way nobody else is doing yet. And those things are fiercely guarded. I had cases where people saw stuff in action and tried to replicate it but could not because they were missing just one small piece. A couple of technologies mashed together to automate things. You've just described the whole software engineering. And it's not a bad thing, actually. True. People underestimate how much of everything in the world is just taking stuff someone else invented and sticking it together to do new things. I mean, my company is viewed as the leader in the field because we have a ton of little things that add up to a major advantage. A competitor that is missing just one piece when we have it and the customer needs it means that they just lost that sale. Most customers don't need every piece we have, but the sheer number of little advantages we have adds up to a significant amount of market share. Thankfully, management knows that this is what the nature of our core advantage is, so they keep investing in keeping that kind of edge instead of sitting back and resting on our, currently significant, feature gap. Funny story, moments after I was unceremoniously fired because my tech skills were found to be insufficient, the bosses who fired me demanded to know the whereabouts of a hugely important computer file I had worked on. I refused to help them. I even cited the exact language of the NDA I was compelled to sign. I am prohibited from disclosing details of my employment with anyone, including past and current employees of the company, I expounded, adding, so ask someone who works here, because I don't. It was a great FU moment that I still cherish 5 years later, but now I think I can disclose the truth. I only hid behind the NDA language because I had no clue where to find their damn computer file. Or even where to look. I stuck with computers. Too dumb to hire. Too smart to fire. I would put that on my resume, but it wouldn't help me. Seems like installing Adobe Reader only works for so long. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.